Nothing can survive at that depth. Nothing human. And even man-made items are crushed very, very quickly. So that intense pressure on that mini sub may very well have been what caused the implosion. And then the question is going to be, was there some sort of fatigue crack in the hull, if you will, in the actual sub? Or did it was it fatigued after going up and down so many times? I did talk to one retired Navy commander today, Hallie, and he said, you know, a typical Navy sub, we're talking about a professional sub, Los Angeles class sub, for example, which only goes 2,000 to 3,000 feet down, more or less. You know, they check it constantly for fatigue cracks, and they never go that deep. And the hull is much more sturdy. His point was, you've got really a carbon fiber, kind of an experimental craft going that deep over and over, up and down, up and down, up and down, and it's possible that would have created some fatigue cracks.
Tom Costello, live for us there in Boston with that developing news. Tom, thank you so much for being with us here tonight and sharing that. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Seguiam.
This afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, we got the news everyone was dreading.
In consultation with...
This afternoon at 3 p.m. Eastern, we got the news everyone was dreading.
In consultation with experts from within the Unified Command, the debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss of the pressure chamber. Upon this determination, we immediately notified the family.
That's the man heading the multinational task force that has spent the last 4 days searching round the clock for the 5 people on board the Titan submersible. They've used planes, ships, a submarine, subsea robots, even remote-operated vehicles capable of descending all the way to the ocean floor, to the wreck of the Titanic itself, where the Titan was headed. But after an expensive, exhausting, and hopeful search, it is now believed the Titan was destroyed. Here's how it happened.
Essentially, we found 5 different major pieces of debris that told us that it was the remains of the Titan.
According to the U.S. Coast Guard, an ROV, a remote-operated vehicle, was able to scour the ocean floor near the Titanic wreckage. A few hundred meters away, they found this.
The initial thing we found was the nose cone, which was outside of the pressure hull.
That was clue number 1. Soon after...
And we begin tonight with breaking news, the tragic end to that deep-sea dive to the wreckage of the Titanic. Late today, the Coast Guard reporting that pieces of the sub have been found in a debris field near the Titanic. and those pieces indicated
Sounds like a good run.
catastrophic implosion of its hull.
Yeah,
and then
Indigo's
moments
working on
ago,
a
a
garrison
U.S.
right
Navy
now.
official confirming to ABC News that an underwater acoustic
Don't think he'll
system
make it,
heard
though.
what was likely that implosion on Sunday. The world watching from the first reports that contact with the Titan had been lost, and all through the desperate race to find it. Today, an underwater rover found 5 pieces of the Titan 1,600 feet from the Titanic. That's about a third of a mile. Now the world is grieving the loss of all 5 people on board. And tonight, an ABC News exclusive. 2 of the world's foremost experts on the Titanic, Robert Ballard and James Cameron, reflect on the dangers of exploration and on the lesson of the Titanic itself. A lot to cover here tonight, and ABC's Gio Benitez leads us off in Halifax, Nova Scotia. And Gio, that news moments ago from a Navy official painting a clearer picture of the timeline of this tragedy.
That's right, Whit. This just came in moments ago, just minutes ago. The Navy apparently heard on Sunday the implosion, what appears to be the implosion of the Titan, and then immediately shared that information with the Coast Guard, they say. Tonight, a heartbreaking end. The Coast Guard announcing search crews have found the pieces of the missing sub carrying 5 passengers 1,600 feet, nearly a third of a mile from the bow of the Titanic.
This is an incredibly unforgiving environment down there on the seafloor, and the debris is consistent with a catastrophic implosion of the vessel.
5 major pieces of debris were recovered on the ocean floor,
Rocks, you see anybody
including
coming
the
up there? Oh
sub's
shit,
nose
infantry
cone,
here.
as well as the
I see a
front
tank
and back
nearby.
end of the vessel, all coming apart as the capsule collapsed inward under extreme pressure.
A
It's
tank
unclear
nearby me.
exactly when the sub imploded after it started its dive Sunday morning. The Navy now saying an underwater
trying to deploy,
acoustic
but,
detection system heard what was likely the
marking's
implosion
moving
of the Titan on Sunday. The information was immediately shared with the Coast Guard for
Probably taking
analysis.
out our notes.
Ping the tank, ping the tank. It's on me.
And the entire unified command, I offer my
Moving north.
deepest condolences to the families.
Ocean Gate Expeditions tonight saying our hearts are with these 5 souls and every member of their families during this tragic time. We grieve the loss of life and joy they brought to everyone they knew. Businessman Shahzada Dawood and his 19-year-old son Suleiman, who shared a passion for science and discovery. British billionaire and explorer Hamish Harding, who loved adventure. Voyaging to space aboard a Blue Origin flight.
I've always wanted to do this, and the sheer experience of looking out of the window is something I'm looking forward to.
And setting records diving to the world's deepest waters in the Pacific.
Well, it's been a fantastic dive.
Tonight, Harding's family remembering him as a loving husband and dedicated father, calling him a passionate explorer, whatever the terrain, who lived for his family, his business, and for the next adventure. P.H. Narjoulé, a legendary expert on the Titanic, had been to the wreck more than 30 times.
They're already
since it
heavy
was
on the
discovered.
point.
Really?
His daughter today saying there is comfort in
Yeah, but
knowing he was in the
probably
place
upload
he
somewhere.
so loved. And the CEO and founder of Ocean Gate Expeditions, Stockton Rush, who saw himself as a maverick, talking in this vlog about how the Titan defied industry standards.
I'd like to be remembered as an innovator. I think it was General MacArthur said, "You're remembered for the rules you break." And you know, I've broken some rules to make this. I think I've broken them with logic and good engineering behind me. The carbon fiber and titanium. There's a rule you don't do that. Well, I did.
They got our
We're now
middle
learning more
spawn
about
locked down,
concerns
our
over
middle
using
HQ.
carbon fiber and titanium to make the experimental sub, an untested material at extreme depths over time. The Titan made 13 trips down to the Titanic over 2 years.
This is not like being a passenger on the first couple of days of service of the new Airbus A380, right? This is like being a test pilot on a plane that has never flown.
Explorer Josh Gates passed on a trip to the Titanic on the sub
bombing
2
run
years ago
inbound.
after several of its systems failed during a test dive.
Carbon fiber is a miraculous material. It's what we're using to build next generation airplanes out of, the Dreamliner, the A350, things like that. But it's not particularly well understood how it works over time in terms of fatigue at depths and in extreme cold.
A former Ocean Gate employee echoed those concerns in a 2018 court filing, where he says he warned the company that flaws in the carbon could grow with each dive under such pressure, risking lives. The dispute was settled out. out of court. Tonight, with the world watching, yet another tragedy. 111 years after the Titanic's doomed voyage, 5 souls captivated by its story, now resting in those same waters.
Sad and haunting.
We lost.
outcome to this surge.
We lost big time,
Geo
guys.
joining us once again from Nova Scotia, and Geo, people worldwide, as you noted, watch.
It is another mystery of the deep. As hopes fade for the 5 wealthy Titanic tourists who vanished while exploring the wreck aboard a mini submarine, one question keeps arising. What happened? It is possible that no one will ever know after the sub, called Titan, suddenly went silent hundreds of miles off the coast of Canada and around 13,000 feet underwater beside the Titanic. On board was a British billionaire, one of Pakistan's richest men and his son, a famed French explorer, and the CEO of the company running the dive. They began their voyage early Sunday, with 96 hours of oxygen inside the sub, and have not been heard from since. Submarine experts agree that 5 possible accidents are the most likely cause. Perhaps the most obvious explanation is that the submersible became tangled in the wreckage of the Titanic itself. The ship split into 2 pieces as it sank back in 1912, and those sections now lie amidst a huge debris field on the seabed. Navigating the wreck is extremely dangerous, according to those who have dived it. It is possible that the sub's pilot got disoriented, perhaps after communications were interrupted, causing the craft to get snagged. Another explorer has described how a sudden undersea current swept his submarine into the wreck, getting it temporarily stuck. Titan is equipped with drop weights, which can be thrown overboard to give it extra buoyancy, potentially freeing it and helping it float to the surface. But if it is stuck, for example, inside the Titanic, there could be little the crew would be able to do except wait for help. A banging noise picked up on sonar could be the trapped crew knocking on the hull of the sub to attract attention, but rescuers have still been unable to find the craft. Titan could also have suffered a power outage or equipment failure. The sub relies on batteries to power the communications, and a failure could explain why it lost contact with the surface. But they also power the engines, the lights, and the heating. A catastrophic failure would have left the sub dead in the water, in complete darkness and in freezing temperatures. If that is the case, experts say the cold could kill quicker than the lack of oxygen. Questions have been raised over the quality of the sub after one passenger pulled out over fears the company building it were cutting corners. He discovered that scaffolding poles were being used as ballast and a video game controller was being used for steering. After that, he demanded his money back. An Ocean Gate engineer also previously quit over safety concerns about the structural integrity of the sub, and an industry body wrote a letter in 2018 criticising the company's experimental approach. Losing power would make the sub harder to find, and there will still be the matter of getting it back to the surface when its engines aren't working. They may still be able to surface, but there is no sign of the vessel yet. Alistair Gree, a professor of marine engineering at the University College London, said rescue options will be extremely limited if the sub is without power. Another possibility is that the sub has become tangled on a piece of debris like a fishing net. Thousands of so-called ghost nets are swept around the deep ocean after being lost by trawlermen. Back in 2005, a Russian submersible called AS-28 became tangled on just such a net while it was underwater off the Kamchatka Peninsula in far eastern Siberia. The net got caught in its propellers and caused it to sink to the seabed, with a British underwater drone brought in to cut the netting and free it. All 7 crew members made it safely to the surface.
Captain Neto, can you
2 days later.
meet me on that move mark, please? We're
But
the
they were
garrison right
stuck
there.
under just a few hundred feet of water, compared to the Titan's 13,000. To cut the craft free, rescuers will first have to find it, and sonar is not good at distinguishing the sub from the wreckage of the Titanic scattered around it. And even if it can be cut free, the Titan will still have to make it back to the surface on its own, because transferring the crew to another vessel at that depth is impossible. After the submersible suddenly stopped communicating with no explanation, a catastrophic implosion of the vessel has become a leading theory. G. Michael Harris, an experienced Titanic explorer, fears that is exactly what happened, 10,000 feet down, where the pressure is 350 times greater than at the surface. When a submarine's hull fails at depth, the pressure of the ocean will almost instantly crush it and anyone inside. Even a small fault in the carbon fibre and titanium hull could have caused the accident, and Titan's 3 previous voyages were cancelled over fears of structural fatigue.
Meet me at that move mark,
Owners
Captain Neto,
OceanGate
please.
said the vessel, which features many homemade components such as hardware store washers, had been repaired since and was equipped with a sophisticated system to monitor for any problems in the hull. But if an issue had suddenly occurred deep underwater, it is doubtful the crew could have done anything in time to save themselves. Just such an incident occurred in 2017 when the Argentinian Navy submarine ARA San Juan went missing in the San Jorge Gulf. The wreck was only located a year later, scattered deep down on the seabed. It is not known exactly what caused the accident, but it is thought an electrical failure caused it to dive beyond its crush depth, causing an implosion, killing all 44 people.
Do we have a machine gunner?
If that's
Yes, sir.
what happened to the Titan,
Get your
then
butt
the
over
crew
here. You can
would have
probably
been
fuck up a
killed
whole lot of shit.
instantly.
Where you at? Get your butt over.
Right here where I am.
My butt is moving.
Is a fire on board, perhaps
If you
caused
get up
by
here and
water
you
getting
sit,
into the electrics.
you can
In
probably,
2019,
like
a
where I
blaze
am,
broke
you
out
can see
inside the
like
battery
a lot of shit.
compartment of the Russian submarine Loshari.
I mean, you're kind of in the
While it was
open, but I
1,000
mean,
feet
you're gonna die anyway.
underwater.
Might as well
Fighting
just
the
do it.
fire in corridors
Yeah,
and
we
narrow
might as well shoot me too.
crew
While you're at
managed to
it.
get Loshari
Okay,
back to its
alright, come
parent
here.
submarine, which
Hey, do we have an
floated
AT?
to the surface. 14
Yeah, I'm just putting
submarines,
some mines out.
some of the most experienced and highly decorated in the whole of the Russian Navy,
Mines.
were killed. If a
Mine's
similar blaze
30
were to
secret.
break
Hey,
out
hey,
on
there's
board
a
the Titan, then the
German
results
supply
could
truck
easily
over here.
be fatal. Even if the crew somehow got
Mark
it
that
under
there's a German
control,
Hey,
the fire
Kibi,
could knock
look
out
to
the
look down
electronics
here.
and
Look down
interrupt the
here.
oxygen
There's a German
inside the
supply truck
tiny
running towards you.
21
Driving
foot
towards you, I
raft.
mean.
There is still a lot we don't know about the Titan's fate.
You see it? Come on,
or
you
the
have to see it.
fates
I saw
of
it.
the men on board. If the craft can somehow get itself to the surface,
Bro,
then
it's
there
under
is
the
hope
bridge then.
that they can be saved. But if it is really stuck at the bottom of the ocean,
My butt is
I
over
saw
here.
it driving
of
up to
finding them
you.
alive are slim
Oh, well, I'm dipping on you now.
and
Sorry,
fading
fellow.
fast.
I'm going over here. I'm off to greener pastures.
Yo, don't go in the ocean, bro.
Dude. These motherfuckers are trying to snipe me. If they actually don't hit me, I'm gonna be...
Whether directing a movie epic like Titanic,
Oh my god, I'm stuck.
or creating
Oh my
the
god, I'm
awesome
stuck.
alien world of Avatar.
Wow,
And he
the
loves a
Germans are booty
challenge
shits.
when he's away
They just
from Hollywood
missed
as well.
every
I
shot.
think a tank is
Latest
coming our way.
adventure is as sweeping in scope as anything he's conjured
Hey,
up
well,
on
there's
silver screen.
some people over here.
Cameron decided to explore the
I
blackest
think we have a
depths
garrison
of our
over here.
oceans, as far as man has ever
I just put a
been.
friendly one that
It was
might
a
be mistaken.
treacherous, some might say
Yeah, and there's
full-time
enemies near it
undertaking.
already. So
But he did it with the help of a little Aussie know-how.
Filmmaker James
yeah, there's
Cameron
enemies
is a
all
man who
over
lives
the
life
bridge.
large.
All over the bridge, boys. And they just satchel it as well. Oh wait, they didn't satchel it. That must have just been a grenade. There is Germans on the bridge though, quite a few.
Just hours
Yep,
earlier,
right on my
in the dead of night in the middle of the Pacific Ocean,
They have a
he was
garrison like
about
right
to
here.
be the loneliest person on the planet. Craft built to
Yeah,
withstand
no one's a party.
incomprehensible pressure.
So first.
He begins an incredible journey. More than 11 kilometres to the deepest point of the ocean.
Prime rib, deep sea challenger is launched.
I was probably apprehensive before the dive, but once you get into the process and you're in the countdown and you're going in, way in the back of your mind there's a little voice that says you're being bolted into a sub that's about to go to the deepest place in the world, you know, but you have to tune that voice out.
That's the voice you ignore.
Exactly.
Any dive this deep is a ride into the unknown. As surface light disappears and the temperature nears freezing, an alien world appears. After a 2-hour freefall, James Cameron lands on a muddy, murky ocean floor. A place that's never been seen before.
As I slid across the bottom, there's a big mark down there that I'm sure will be there for another 100 years.
So that's Jim's mark.
That's right. I was trying to
He's
spell
up in
my
the
name.
thing in a moment.
It's all a very long way from James Cameron's day job.
Mr. James Cameron!
Of red carpet premieres and calling the shots on film sets. He's the Canadian-born director who has thrilled us with blockbuster after blockbuster.
I'm the king of the world!
And it was creating these films that gave him the motivation and the deep pockets for his other great love, deep water exploration.
We're right in the middle of the avalanche.
You couldn't be any further from Hollywood right now.
I couldn't be further from Hollywood and I couldn't be happier. And I don't mean that as a diss of Hollywood. It's just that I have to kind of code switch when I go back into that world.
But the very different worlds of Hollywood and exploration have become inseparable too.
Oh, say it's not the clock.
After making Titanic, he was inspired to dive the real wreck.
Oh, yeah, this is the clock we did in the movie.
So he approached his great friend, Australian producer Andrew White.
Oh, man, look at this.
And together, they set out to explore and document the hidden wonders deep below the surface.
You seeing this thing? Look at this. This is like the ugliest fish in the world.
But as with all adventurers, their dreams just got bigger, or in their case, deeper.
Look at this silver throwing up. This is the last frontier for exploration on planet Earth. So you've got a whole continent down there that we know nothing about.
Just waiting to be discovered.
Waiting to be discovered.
RIP.
And the deepest frontier of all is the Mariana Trench near the Philippines. Incredibly, in 1960, a 2-man submarine got to the bottom, but wasn't sophisticated enough to collect samples or take so much as a photograph. It was a world still begging to be explored and recorded.
The launching point for this dive is here in Guam, a tiny island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. A day's sail away, James Cameron will be going deeper than Mount Everest.
Beth, can you spawn on the outpost? There's a enemy supply truck right on my mark, my light vehicle mark.
Dissolve into solution very rapidly at that depth. What
I killed the driver out already.
Finds is pairs of shoes.
Takes years for a skeleton to vanish, but the shoes, treated with tannic acid, they won't eat it. So all around the Titanic are the shoes. There's a scene where we were filming and we came across a pair of women's shoes next to a pair of girls' shoes. These were people.
These were people. Those shoes got to the bottom.
Double.
On people.
They were in their cabin because the cabin was all around the destruction of it, and there was a hand mirror.
This is the human element. This is what people touched. It's what they lived with.
Amazing.
Titanic 25 years ago. But despite all our efforts to make the film as accurate as possible, there's one thing some fans just can't accept. They insist Jack could have survived if he could have done that piece of debris. People even claim to have proved it. Of course, Jack and Rose were fictional characters. Nearly 1,500 real people died that night, and my aim was to honor their memory.
You know, imagine all of these people out there in the ocean. This is the crowd.
The Coast Guard says the 5 passengers on the Titanic submersible have died. Officials were able to locate a debris field Thursday and said the sub at some point imploded. It's not clear if their bodies can be recovered. Will Conan joins us now. He's president and CEO of Hydrospace Group, which specializes in engineering pressure vehicles for human capacity. Will, first, I'd like to get your reaction to Thursday's news.
Yeah, this has been a very sad day. We've been on pins and needles for days, and in hearing the Coast Guard announcement this morning, I've been doing this for a few hours now, trying to find a word that's just stronger than tragic. This is very tragic. This is the single biggest incident in our industry of submersibles since 1960. 60 years. This has never happened. We've had
Someone switch to support real quick so I can build a garrison over here.
4 fatalities in the
I just need supplies on the outpost.
With 3 different events, and here in a single event, we have this is more than all the rest combined. So we are. It is very sad. They're all colleagues. I mean, this is a small community. The families are just devastating for the families, and there is a world of engineers and professionals that gathers. I'm chairman of the submersible committee within the Marine Technology Society. It's been we discuss, we review designs, regulations. We are close to this. We have safe regulations, and it is a battle between pushing the boundary of innovation and regulation. One is too slow, one is too fast, and finding the balance. It's tricky for any industry of finding that balance, and sadly, in the world of deep ocean, and this is very, very deep. Even in our industry, this is very deep. There's only 10 vehicles that in the entire world that can go to this depth, and and the.
Do you have a sense, Will, of what do you have a theory about what might have happened, and do you think there's any way to ever know?
Yeah, I think we will know. I mean, they will be picking up the pieces. Let's see what one of the issues, seeing what the debris field is down there. We have some amazing technology on the seafloor with the remotely operated vehicles. These are very dexterous machines that can take photographs, video, and pick up some of the parts. But look, when something like that happens, when they call it a catastrophic implosion, that just means an underwater explosion, just inwards. And that means something gave.
Hey, Whiffy, he's on the road.
And if they have the front and back pieces, those were made out of titanium. It appears that the central part just gave way.
you were involved in, and help me understand this, you were involved in writing a letter in 2018 that raised some safety concerns with OceanGate. Were those concerns addressed? How much should we understand this past history in evaluating the safety of this trip and whether any gates were blown that should have been paid attention to before launching?
You know, it's a very fair question, and that
fall back
adds
for a
to
wave
the
of
tragedy,
defense.
right?
Fall back on the Garrison if you're dead.
Since the we know how to do this. We go to 20,000 feet all the time, reliably, safely. We have a solution. It is a process. Here, our committee meets every year. It's our 20th anniversary this year. We're going to have a big celebration. I'm afraid that's going to be significantly damaging. 2018, after the 3 days, many people, senior experts,
they're in that windmill.
Come in and say, "Hey, Will, what do we do? I think this is serious. I mean, do they know what they're doing? The risks. And we figured, what are we going to do? Do we stay silent? Do we say something?" And I drafted the letter. I passed it around my colleagues, and more than 24 people signed the letter. And we suggest you. What's concerning is the strategy of bypassing the existing safety check procedure. We call that classification, and that's where a third-party outside agency comes in and reviews a design, reviews the drawings, inspects the construction and the testing to ensure everything is done properly. And you know, it's considered an imposition, but at the same time, it's a bit of, call it, engineering crowdsourcing, where you have a lot of people checking over and making sure you don't miss anything. And at 4,000 meters, at 12,000 feet, I say, you know, I call it Father Neptune here. Doesn't care much for puny humans. I mean, you make a small mistake and it gets costly.
And so, Will, help us understand the tension between, as you say, regulations and having a third party look at safety. Is it that imposes a cost? Is it that imposes restrictions that make it hard to have a commercial enterprise that is enjoyable for passengers? What is the tension that's at play?
Well, every industry has a tension between
close one.
The one moves too slow, the other one moves too fast. And that's one of the issues we have within the committee, to bring all the stakeholders at the table and say, okay, how do we do this careful dance between the two to find a happy medium? And I mean, all industries face the similar challenges. And we are very open to innovation. In fact, you know, we've been doing this for 30 years. I mean, there's been some amazing innovations in the submarine world in the last 20 years. The problem is, part of OceanGate's philosophy, their reaction to the letter was, well, no, I think we got it. I think we got it. Thank you anyway. I think we have a better and faster method. And, you know, I keep saying the same thing. We're parents with children. You know, what do you do when your teenagers get into really, really bad trouble despite the biggest love and sincere advice you give them? They go unheeded, and what are you left with? You're just left with empty, right? It's lose, 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 and then you still feel, well, what more can we do? It is super badly sad, and because this was predictable. To answer your question, yes, the following 3 days review process and classification.
Rip people and subs.
And then you still the
Joining us right now is James Cameron, diver, explorer, director of The Abyss, a deep-sea thriller, and most famously, of course, Titanic as well as many other great films. James, I appreciate you joining us. Someone who's devoted his life to exploration and many things under the sea. I wonder what is going through your mind tonight.
Well,
thanks, Anderson. I mean, obviously, we're all kind of heartsick from the outcome of this, and I've been living with it for a few days now, as some of my other colleagues in the deep submergence community. I was out on a ship myself when the event happened on Sunday. The first I heard of it was Monday morning. I immediately got on my network because it's, you know, a very small community in the deep submergence group, and found out some information within about a half hour that they had lost comms and they had lost tracking simultaneously. The only scenario that I could come up with in my mind that could account for that was an implosion, a shockwave event so powerful that it actually took out a secondary system that has its own pressure vessel and its own battery power supply, which is the transponder that the ship uses to track where the cell is. So I was thinking implosion then. That's Monday morning. I got on the horn again with some other people, tracked down some intel.
What's your name? What's your name?
Because there are hydrophones all over the Atlantic, and
No.
that there was some kind of loud noise consistent with an implosion event. That seemed to me enough confirmation that
Vizca Barca. Vizca Barça. Quesadillas. Yo, don't go in the ocean, please.
Lacrimosa. Knowing full well that it was futile, hoping against hope that I was wrong, but knowing
Vámonos.
that I
Come
wasn't.
on.
And so it certainly wasn't a surprise today. And I just feel terrible for the families that had to go through all these false hopes that kept getting
Wait for me.
You know,
No, so quédate.
played out.
You got gas money?
I just want to, you said it was on Monday.
It was after Jack and Baxter chocolates. And filled with fucking bullets.
What'd you say?
That's, yeah. That's I like your uniform. To me now, that's hearsay, multiple, you know, I didn't hear any credible sources, so, you know, I took that.
Okay, I see you whipping it. I see you whipping the thing.
I couldn't think of any other scenario.
German drifting over here. Hit that corner, hit that corner.
They were on descent, they were a couple hundred meters above the seafloor, and they dropped their weights. Now, the only way for the ship to know that they had dropped their ascent weights, which would be an emergency abort, is if they had called that in, that they were ascending. So
You guys ever think that maybe we should make love with the Germans and not war?
We are the Germans.
Yeah. You just fill yourself up, bro. Just use your hand. Your hand's German. Your hand is very German. Don't worry about it.
This man spent too much time in the gulag.
Sorry. My spawn screen only showed my mother. It didn't show anything else.
Yo, he's hinting at someone in that back over there. Damn! Yeah, pal.
Typical German driver.
Why are you in a rush to die? That's how you implode, bro. Yo, T-Bone, you won't T-Bone them.
If you look behind you, you'll see a man on a tank for some stupid fucking reason.
Those tires are made out of steel.
There's explosions up ahead.
Medic,
Let's keep going.
Medic!
No, let's fake it out.
Woo! Woo!
It hurts.
It's fine.
GG boys, GG boys.
Buddy, you're missing the war.
GG's. Good job, pal.
Thank you.
Oh, to your right by the ladder of the thing.
certification. And I think it was unconscionable that this group did not go through that rigorous process.
What is, this was an experimental design. There's no question about it. It's a carbon composite. It's a spacecraft, but is it designed for deep underwater pressure? And what is the danger of that material in this kind of environment?
Completely inappropriate for a vessel that sees external pressure. Carbon fiber composites are very, very successfully for internal pressure vessels. And you can get 2 or 3 times multiple of what you can get out of steel.
No! Medic! Medic!
Come over here and wipe my ass, please.
Medic!
External pressure, all of the advantages of composite materials go away, and all the disadvantages come into play. So if you're using a uniform material like steel,
Squad leader can get it OP.
I got him, I got him! I got him, I got him, don't worry, man. I'm covering you.
Naga.
the second you start doing carbon composite or any kind of composite materials, you're introducing two materials in contact with each other. A filament itself, matrix that it sits within. And at that point you have degradation.
So the search continues for a mini sub that disappeared on a trip to view the wreckage of the Titanic. 5 people are on board. The Coast Guard in Boston says that the sub lost contact Sunday, about an hour and 45 minutes into its dive. So for more on the missing submersible and rescue efforts, we want to bring in Butch Hendrick. He's joining us now. He's the president and founder of Lifeguard Systems, which conducts dive training for public safety officers. And he's not involved in this specific rescue, though, but has been instructing dive rescues for over 35 years. So we sort of have been loosely calling this a submarine, but it's not a submarine. It's a submersible. It needs to sort of, once it's in the water, it can navigate, but it's not sort of independently able to propel itself kind of around, right? I hope I'm saying it properly. This seems like an incredible complex rescue because they don't even know, to start things off, they don't know if this submersible is under the water.
On Sunday, all 5 passengers are feared dead.
Yes, that effort to try and find the Titan, a submersible that was exploring the Titanic, is now sadly concluded. The U.S. Coast Guard says that the debris consistent with a catastrophic implosion, but still leaving many questions unanswered about how this happened. What was the failure that led to the pressure of that causing that implosion? Exactly. For more now, let's bring in Stefano Brizzolara. He is an ocean engineering expert and co-director of the Virginia Tech Center for Marine Autonomy and Robotics. Stefano, I'm really glad to be talking to you because you actually have a basis for understanding this that the rest of us don't have. First of all, just tell us about your immediate reaction to this tragedy, and when you hear the consistent with a catastrophic implosion, given the pressure that was on this vehicle and your understanding of engineering and robotics and marine exploration, what additional insights can you provide for us?
Yeah, unfortunately, the failure of the pressure hull was probably the first hypothesis that could be done.
The OP is being hit by artillery and we're getting overrun. Can you move the OP a bit?
Pressure that you experience at those depths. You must consider that at 4,000 meters depth,
artillery
pressure is 400 atmosphere, which is 400 times the pressure we experience at sea level. You pump the tires of your car at
Move it to a flank,
so
left or right.
Times the pressure that is in the tires of your car.
Stefano, before we hear or learn more about exactly what went wrong and what What can you tell us about just the efforts that went into this? We understand that it was a robotic device that detected this, that there were several that were used to reach these extreme depths that here in the United States, it's 12,500 feet. That is the ocean floor where the Titanic wreckage is. Can you talk to us a little bit about just what it takes, how these work, and what went into identifying the pieces that were found?
Yeah, underwater at those depths there is no light, obviously, and the light actually can penetrate probably maximum 20 meters for a strong light. So you cannot use really light to see anything underwater. You have to use acoustic waves, or sonar. The reflection of the acoustic wave that you emit come back, and there is a sensors that read the distance basically from which